Hi, everyone. Michael from Alpaca Health here. Thanks so much for joining tonight's webinar about supervision and the new BACB 2027 guidelines that I know have a lot of you having questions. We are going to wait a few minutes for people to grab their dinners, get their teas, settle in before we jump in tonight. But as people are coming in, would love to hear some intros. If you just want to put in the chat your name, your state, and what the weather is like right now for you. You want to try out the chat because that's also where we'll be monitoring for questions or things that you want us to address throughout today's presentation, and also at the end where we'll have a dedicated time to answer any specific questions that you have. So please go ahead and head over to the chat and introduce yourself, your name, your state, and what the weather is like in your neck of the woods. Miriam says hi from Virginia. Hi, Miriam. And then SW19, which I imagine is not your real name, is from Florida, where I imagine it's a lot warmer than what it is here in New York, where it got cold and dreary. It used to be really nice, but it just got really bad this week, unfortunately. So as people are trickling in, let us know your name, your state, and where you're from. In the chat where you can ask questions throughout tonight's presentation, where we'll pull them up on the big screen and get those questions answered. All right. Well, we're 3 minutes after the hour here. We'll probably give it a couple more minutes as we let people trickle in. And one thing I always like to say is this is a public link, the one up there. So take it, copy and paste it, put it in your group chat at BCBAs on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and anybody can join all throughout tonight. So please, 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 please share the URL. We are about 5 minutes here after the hour, so I'm going to get into it first with some housekeeping, and then introducing Camilla, our guest, and letting her take the reins here. But for those of you who don't know me, my name is Michael. I'm one of the founders at Alpaca Health, where we're a practice in a box for BCBAs trying to start, run, and grow their own independent ABA practices. Whether that means hiring RBTs, directly delivering services yourself, doing telehealth or not, all of that's up to you, because we believe clinicians should be in charge. And that's why you should run your own businesses. When we first started this, we realized how difficult it was for BCBAs to start businesses. Insurance was tough, running a business was hard, and so we wanted to solve those problems. And so now at Alpaca, we take over everything non-clinical. We provide you modern AI-enabled technology to do your scheduling, data collection, intake, and payroll. We fully manage your admin, dealing with insurance on your behalf. And the last piece is we guarantee payouts so that you'll always have enough money in the bank every 2 weeks to pay not just yourself, but also your staff. So if you're interested in learning more about starting a practice, feel free to go to our website and contact us. And we do this webinar series totally for free, just to help potential new ABA practice owners learn more about what it means and what it takes to start your own business. And one of the big things you have to do is not just supervise RBTs working for yourself, but supervise as an owner, which I think is a totally different ball game and is a lot more responsibility. And that's why I'm really excited to have Camilla on, who is the founder of MentorTrack. I'm going to bring her on stage here. MentorTrack is a really cool software platform. You guys know I love technology, so I love what MentorTrack is doing. So I'm going to let Camilla, who knows far, far more about the world of supervision and the 2027 requirements, take it over from here. Introduce yourself and get into it. And I'll just hang out here and moderate the chat for us tonight.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. Let me go ahead and share my screen so we can go ahead and get started. All right, perfect. Well, my name is Camilla Jakob. I'm one of the founders for Mentor Track, a digital platform for ABA fieldwork to streamline supervision for trainees collecting their fieldwork hours to sit for the BCBA exam and become BCBAs. So for today, we're really focusing on exploring how supervision changes when you do step into that practice ownership. We'll discuss how to build compliance, scalable supervision systems, give meaningful feedback, and stay audit ready, and prevent burnout. You will leave with real-world strategies. I'm going to provide some examples throughout the presentation and tools like Mentor Track to supervise effectively and sustainably. So let's start talking about what changes when you shift from being a clinician to running your own practice and how that can impact supervision. So when we think about supervision, most of us were trained to manage maybe a few cases at a time, but once you step into that leadership or ownership, it is a shift. You're really responsible for making sure that the entire supervision program runs consistently, effectively, and ethically. So what does that mean? It means creating a structured, scalable system that really supports ethical practice and meets BACB standards and protects your license. So in my experience, without systems, things often do fall through the cracks. And with systems, supervision becomes scalable, sustainable, and that's really the key to protecting both your clients and your practice. In the old model here, you'll see that supervision often meant one supervisor paired with one trainee, and it's not really scalable. So it does leave a lot of room for inconsistency. The newer model is about systemizing supervision across all cases, clear expectations, shared processes, and built-in accountability. So this shift is what really allows the growing practice to stay compliant and provide meaningful training at a scale. And then last, we have the business impact, which is huge. When supervision is structured, it protects your license, supports better outcomes for your trainees, and it also gets you audit ready. So really the big takeaway here is that supervision needs to grow with your business, and that means also building systems as well. So when you're in that leadership role, whether you are the owner or not, you're the one who's ultimately accountable for how supervision is handled. And that accountability can fall into three big buckets. So the first one we have here is oversight of documentation. So here you're making sure that the contracts are signed, the forms are uploaded, session notes are completed. So for example, and all the examples I'm using are real examples that happen either in my leadership experience or with other supervisions or other owners of practices. So for example, for oversight of documentation, I once found out that a supervisee hadn't signed their contract until 2 months in. So we couldn't count those hours. And it's really easy to miss that without a system tracking it and really knowing where do we have documentation that that contract was signed and then placed in an organized system. The second one is oversight of compliance. So this includes tracking percentage of supervision hours, making sure the observations are done monthly, and then really being prepared if the BACB does audit you. So we also had a case where a supervisor missed 1 month of observations and didn't realize until the end of the quarter. So unfortunately, the trainee also lost those hours. And then the last one is oversight of accountability of clinical quality. So it's not just checking the boxes, it's really making sure that the trainee is building real skills and making those ethical decisions. So for example, when we look at a trainee who keeps collecting data incorrectly, and then no one is catching it, that's already a clinical issue and not just a paperwork one. So even if you do delegate, you're still the responsible party. So the right systems really help you manage all 3 of these areas without burning out or letting things slip through the cracks, which can happen a lot with systems that are not organized. So for the next one, I really want to discuss what exactly do we need to stay compliant with? Let's break it down to what the BACB expects. So to build a compliant and audit-ready supervision system, you really have to start with the BACB essentials. So that means for fieldwork hours, for example, having that supervision contract in place and completing the required number of observations every month, and keeping your documentation organized and also on time. And again, I remind this a lot to BCBAs and trainees, they're not just technicalities. This is what protects you during audits, and it really ensures that your practice stays ethical. And with the 2027 requirements rolling out from the BACB, choosing the right pathway, tracking compliance, it's even more complex. So I want to go ahead and get it with you to discuss, to look at a platform like MentorTrack and how it simplifies the process. So we already know that the BACB requirements are complex. So when you're using spreadsheets or tracking things manually, it's really easy to lose track of what counts or what doesn't count. And this is especially important now that the 2027 fieldwork requirements are rolling out. And MentorTrack is actually the first digital platform to support those updated requirements. Here you will see a screenshot, and it's actually from our platform where the trainee is actually able to select the pathway. So whether they're doing the supervised/mixed pathway or if they're doing the concentrated pathway. When they select the pathway, or our platform will determine if they are in compliance with those requirements. And then I have a little comparison here for a table. So on the left, you can really see how it's typically done. So typically the trainees are selecting the pathway manually. They're usually using spreadsheets or for hour tracking. They're manually calculating the percentages. And even if they are using a spreadsheet that has formulas in it that calculates the percentage for you, most often that percentage does get messed up, or the trainees accidentally mess with the formulas and then the whole thing gets messed up. They're also using separate PDF forms. We all know those monthly forms and the final forms where we are sending them out to the BCBA every month. Those can get lost as well. And there's also risk of compliance errors, right? So a trainee doesn't truly know whether they are in compliance with their requirements. They do their best, but I've always seen errors when I did catch them doing it without MentorTrack. Now with MentorTrack, which is on the right, we have auto pathway classification, which is the screenshot here that I included. We have real-time hour calculations, automatic ratio tracking, integrated forms and sign-offs. So what that means is really we have everything in our platform, including the monthly forms and the final forms that all get integrated into the document system that we provide at our platform. And we will review that a little bit later on as well. And then the most important part is, of course, the built-in BACB compliance checkpoints. So again, all of this can protect your practice from compliance errors, and it can save a lot of admin time. So I want to go ahead and take a closer look to what happens when the BACB audits fieldwork. Because if your systems aren't in the right place, that's really where things can fall apart because they want things very fast. So the BACB can initiate fieldwork audit at any time. Sometimes it's random, sometimes it's triggered by a flag documentation or ethics concerns. And once the audit starts, the BACB will contact the supervisor and the trainee. They may request things like your supervision contract, your signed monthly verification forms, documentation logs, or sometimes even proof of supervisor qualifications. And you only have 14 days to submit everything. And if anything is missing or inconsistent, the BACB may determine the hours are non-compliant. So then that could lead to a notice of alleged violation, and then the hours are being disqualified. So this is why I'm really passionate about our platform and why having a centralized system like MentorTrack matters. It really keeps your documentation audit ready at all times, so you're not scrambling paperwork, spreadsheets, documents after the effect. So now that we've covered a little bit about what the BACB audits, I want to talk about one of the most commonly misunderstood requirements, which is unrestricted tasks. And then we will also go over a little bit about the new RBT requirements as well. So with unrestricted tasks, they're really one of the most, I would say, in my opinion, the most valuable parts of supervision, but also the most overlooked. These are the activities that go beyond direct client implementation, right? So things like parent coaching, treatment planning, writing goals, or even conducting assessments. So again, it's not just about checking a percentage box, but it's really about building clinical judgment and preparing trainees for real responsibilities of being a BCBA. And I always like to call them mock BCBAs because I really want them to practice the skills that they will need when they do pass their exam. So to provide those experiences, you can involve trainees in parent meetings, right? Really teach them how to communicate with the caregiver, how to have those difficult conversations. Give them ownership over portions of the treatment plans that you're writing, or even assign goals related to data analysis or just even team training. And again, it really matters because we want to build that clinical reasoning, problem solving, and again, we really want to prepare them for those real world decisions that they may encounter. So MentorTrack helps you monitor these in real time. So when it comes to those unrestricted hours, we really want the trainees to take track of what they're collecting when it comes to those unrestricted hours, because those are a big chunk of the hours and they're extremely important. So while our platform doesn't currently support RBTs, it currently only supports trainees collecting their fieldwork hours, and they may be RBTs. We are actively working on an RBT dashboard to support the new 2026 changes that are coming out for RBT requirements. And I took some screenshots directly from the BACB website as well. So what are the new changes? RBTs will now need to complete 12 hours of professional development. It has been changed to every 2 years. So this can include in-service trainings, ACE-provided CEUs, or university coursework. So what this means is the RBTs have more responsibilities, and organizations really need to ensure that training is not only happening, but everything is also being documented properly. So this is still all a really good reminder, because supervision systems really matter at every level. And practice owners specifically really need visibility into who is qualified to supervise and what support they may need. So, while compliance and training structures are extremely critical, they only go so far, because what really truly shapes a future BCBA, this is one of my favorite parts of training and overseeing trainees, is the feedback that they receive and the type of mentor that they have. So when I supervise and when I oversaw newer BCBAs overseeing trainees for their field work, I realized really early on that, constructive feedback is not just enough. It's how you give the feedback and how you're building them as future clinicians. A lot of trainees don't just need a supervisor, they need a mentor. So trainees need coaching, they need specific, immediate feedback that really helps them develop that critical clinical thinking and professional judgment. And high impact feedback really shifts from supervision, from correction to mentorship. And that's really how we can help strong, confident, and future BCBAs. And again, they don't grow from vague feedback, right? Again, they really need that immediate, specific, and actionable feedback. So I'm going to walk you through some examples. So for example, instead of saying like, hey, they need things like, if you're trying to provide them constructive feedback, right? Let's say it was during a parent training session. Instead of saying things like, hey, you seemed unsure during your parent training session. Instead, we can try saying something like, hey, when the parent asked how to respond to the tantrum, you paused and you looked at me before answering, which is totally okay to look at me for reassurance. I'm always there for you. But next time, let's try briefly validating the parent's concern and then confidently building and modeling what the planned response would be. And even if it's a quick role play, right, to build their trust and the momentum. And in my experience, validating caregivers' concerns goes a long way. We want to make sure that parents are understanding that we are understanding their concerns and not just ignoring them. So when we're giving that specific feedback, we're really giving the trainee a very specific moment to reflect on. And we always talk about it. This is a real example that I had. It also gives the trainee a very clear action plan to improve, right? And then why is it tied to the clinical outcome, right? The goal in the moment was really building parents' trust. And that's really important in a parent training session. Another one that I really like to use is we all love positive reinforcement in the form of verbal praise. Well, most of us do. A lot of my trainees really enjoyed it when I would do surveys with them as far as what they like when it comes to verbal praise. And I would say most of them said, I love when you provide me verbal praise. So, it's great, but we still want to be really specific. So instead of saying things like, hey, nice job today, which, yes, that is very nice and supportive. However, I would shift that into saying something like, I noticed you used a really calm tone and you paused before repeating your instruction when the client started to escalate. That was a really great way to de-escalate without reinforcing that behavior. So again, it's very specific. to the positive reinforcement that providing. And this is important because it reinforces the trainee to continue doing what they need to do, but it also shows them why that feedback matters, right? The second piece is high impact can build clinical reasoning. So rather than just correcting a mistake, I might say, hey, what function do you think it was that was maintaining the behavior today? What data supports your guess? And that really, in my experience, can encourage a lot of problem solving, critical thinking, and it really helps the trainee act as, a mock BCBA, and it's extremely helpful. And sometimes they have amazing ideas that I haven't heard of before. So it's really great because then we can work together collaboratively. Another example would be to build clinical reasoning, might be, hey, why do you think that client was more resistant to demands today? Could it be a setting event such as lack of sleep or a change in routine? So that's another one that I like to test a lot. And most often they have such an amazing answer, and it really shifts their perception too, instead of, coming back and saying, that client really didn't want to listen today, when there's just so much more to that, right? Was there connection? Was there bonding? Was there a setting event that was happening in that moment? During a team debrief, I might say, hey, you implemented extinction procedure correctly, but let's talk about the function a little bit more. Could a differential reinforcement strategy have been more appropriate in that context? And that's where I really see their clinical reasoning come into place. And sometimes they even come in with research, right? Like, no, I don't think that was appropriate because I read this article and I really want to discuss this further with you. And again, like I mentioned, sometimes they have really great examples too. And then lastly, the goal for me is always independence. And I'm really passionate about building really strong, competent trainees. I always tell my trainees, my job isn't to give you all the answers. It's really to help you trust your own decisions, because when you become a BCBA, you will need to make those sound calls without needing that constant confirmation. And to be honest, sometimes I don't have all the answers either. It's a field that we're constantly learning in as well. My goal is for trainees to feel confident in their skills and then being able to implement them on their own, and being able to say, you know what, I can do this on my own and I'm confident that I can do it. And then they also know when it's okay to ask for help as well. So that's really the heart of high impact feedback. Again, like really shifting from correction to mentorship. That's how we can help support, build confident, ethical, and future BCBAs. And as you take on more trainees, good feedback might not be enough, right? You will need systems that scale with your practice. So one of the biggest risks as your practice grows is assuming that you can keep supervising the way that you always have. But we all know we're human and memory fades. Spreadsheets can get extremely messy, formulas can get broken, and then emails get lost. What something works for one trainee or two trainees won't hold up when you're managing a whole team. So without a scalable system, you open the door to missed observations, compliance gaps, and also burnout, not just for yourself, but also for trainees. I've had many trainees come to me and actually ask me for a better system back when I was a clinical director. But what we had at the time is what we had to use, and we made it work, but it was difficult and it was hard, which is really why systems like MentorTrack were designed to automate the hour tracking, supervision feedback, document generation, compliance alerts, so you can really grow with your team without the supervision falling apart. And at the end of the day, when you're investing in a structure, it protects your license, protects your staff, and your peace of mind a little bit too. So again, that's really exactly why we built MentorTrack, is to solve the compliance and workflow issues that come with manual supervision systems. So now we will get into the platform. So in my leadership role, again, I saw firsthand how easy it was for supervision systems to break down, especially as the teams got bigger. So again, the spreadsheets would get lost, the formulas would get broken. I've constantly had to fix formulas, go back and forth with the trainees. And then when we were giving feedback to trainees, we had, systems in place either on a Google Drive. I had my own templates that I created. I ended up creating a whole goal bank because I was really passionate about providing feedback to trainees and objective goals. But it was multiple systems, right? It wasn't just one area that I could go to. So that's exactly why I really built MentorTrack, is I wanted to remove those pain points, not just for me, but for all the other clinicians that I've met with and connected with and the trainees. And I really wanted to bring everything into one centralized platform. So with built-in hour tracking, automated compliance alerts, real-time collaboration, supervisors can really shift their focus from chasing all those spreadsheets or multiple systems and really focus on mentoring their trainees. So let me show you how the platform gives trainees full transparency into their hours and compliance progress. So I have screenshots of some of the amazing features that we have. So if you want to check out more, of course, check out our website. I will give more information at the end. But this is for the trainee dashboard where they get a all-time view for their total hours, supervision percentages, hour distribution, observations, and supervision contacts. And you also get the compliance alert here as well. Then everything is synced to the supervisor dashboard. You get a clean real-time view of each trainee status. So this is just one trainee that I took a screenshot of. And you don't have to chase spreadsheets anymore. You don't have to ask the trainee what they're doing or how they're doing. Everything that the trainee sees, you also get to see as well. So again, you get a total view of the trainee's progress. You get a monthly view, much, much more. You get view of the months that were prorated, months that count as concentrated, and vice versa. This is going back to the trainee dashboard. Again, our platform will flag partial months so that you can still count hours for eligible for the current requirements. And then it also catches non-compliant months in real time. So again, a lot of the organizations and the BCBAs that we piloted this with, there was no room for error by the time that the monthly forms were being sent to the supervisor. The supervisor is constantly checking in the hours. I don't have a screenshot of this, but they're able to approve each entry for the trainee when they input their hours. And again, all the calculations are based by the BACB standards, right? You don't need to manually check if the hours are compliant. This is also through the trainee dashboard as well. This is a monthly compliance analysis. Everything is exportable, right? So if you ever need to audit or share the records, everything is exportable in seconds. And beyond supervision, Hours, we want to support the growth, right? So hours are important, yes. But we build a way to collaboratively set and monitor compliance and clinical goals, or complete clinical goals, to see, how the trainee is doing real time. This is just version 1. We have many versions that are coming out in the future, but we wanted to get started with something, and we've had amazing feedback so far. So here on the left, you can assign, monitor, and update the trainee goals in real time. And then on the right, this is what the trainee sees. They see their SMART goals very clearly. Okay. And then this is one of the best parts that we have, the monthly forms. They're done in seconds, and they're synced instantly. So our platform will auto-generate the correct BACB monthly verification form. So for example, for May 2025, if there were multiple supervisors detected for that month, the system will auto-generate a multiple supervisor form. You just click generate monthly form. The form will pop up. This is when the trainee was generating the form. It will instantly then upload to the supervisor dashboard, and then the supervisor will receive it, sign it, and it will automatically sync back to the trainee dashboard. So again, everything is all in one system, and it's 100% BACB compliant and audit ready. Okay. So, to go back to when I led large supervision programs, again, I saw how quickly things can fall through the cracks without those clear workflows in place. So supervision gaps would emerge. Suddenly we're scrambling during audit season, looking for those spreadsheets, monthly forms, feedback forms. And it's not because the people weren't doing their jobs, but it's because the system really wasn't built to scale. So there, I also realized, checklists alone are not enough to build strong clinicians. And we talked a lot about feedback. A form can only tell you what was done, but it's the real coaching and the real mentorship that really builds that judgment, confidence, and independence in that trainee. And as the teams grow, manual tracking just stops working. So I remember spending hours digging through emails, trying to find that spreadsheet so I can confirm that that monthly form is correct. And I'm trying to verify that supervision hour or missing feedback notes. It just was not sustainable. So, and it just wasn't definitely efficient. And that's why structure systems really matter. And that's why I'm so passionate about it. They really just protect not just your compliance, but also the quality of supervision and the care that you're delivering. And I want to say again, thank you so much for joining me today. And Michael, I truly believe that better systems can create better supervisors, better clinicians, and ultimately better care. So we're currently piloting Mentor Track with organizations and BCBAs, and we would love to include you. So if you're interested, please reach out. We can go ahead and test it with you and really help shape the future of supervisors and clinicians. And we can go ahead and get into questions.
Well, that was awesome. Thanks for the presentation, Camilla. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Because I imagine you weren't a tech person before this. And I think I know the answer to my own question, but for the audience, can you tell the story of how you got into like the tech world of things?
Oh boy, yes. So my husband, ever since I've dated him, met him, he's just always been a software engineer. He actually is a head of engineering at a visual ed tech company. And he's just extremely intelligent, and I'm just so lucky to have him on the team and just see all my ideas come into life. And I've always wanted to build something with him for the field. I was always passionate about it. I'm like, we need to build something for the field. But he has his full-time job, right? So it had to be the right moment for both of us to be like, okay, can we do this? We also have a daughter who just turned 1 year old. So you can imagine how busy we are. She's walking, trying to run, which is exciting, but she definitely keeps us busy. And he knows how passionate I am about the field. He knows how much I love it. I've been in the field for over 10 years. So he decided, I will help you do this and I will help you build it. So although I know all about the platform, it's him building it, right? Like the coding part, the tech part, I can't do any of that. I don't know how to code. It's all him. He's extremely intelligent, and I'm so thankful for his help. And I love working with him.
That's awesome. Literally a family-run business.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so funny. Well, questions, please feel free to put in the chat. Otherwise, Camilla, do you want to put your email
Oh,
in the chat, and that way people have access to it? And I will do the same thing with my email. Perfect. Well, it doesn't look like there are questions, so I want to thank everybody for coming out, hanging out with us, and Camilla for that awesome presentation. Thank
thank
you
you.
for the time. And it looks like Sonia just signed up for a demo, so congrats.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening.
Thank you so much for having me.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.